Hello, and welcome to another installment of the Pug's Thoughts in the Doghouse. I'm Pug, and here's what I'm thinking. Okay, now since my rant for the NFL draft is out of the way and out of my system, here's who I think should be the number one pick this year. And this is something I do on a year-to-year basis instead of a mock draft. I forgot to mention that in my previous video. And I hope I pronounced this first name of this player correctly. I think that Ndamukong Suh, the defensive tackle from Nebraska, should be the number one pick in the draft. I'm going off of clips I've seen on the internet and also on College Game Day on ESPN. I am really impressed with his speed and his ability to make plays. Plus, he's coming from Nebraska, and Nebraska plays in the Big 12. And I think the Big 12 is one of the best conferences in the country, if not the best. At one point, I thought it was better than the SEC. But that's a debate for another day, particularly since Alabama routed Texas for the national championship. So I have Suh as the number one pick. Now here's the question of, will the St. Louis Rams take him at number one? It's been reported on ESPN.com and on SportsCenter the Rams have not signed a quarterback prior to the draft like Sam Bradford. However, a lot of college football analysts say this is the year the Rams need to take a quarterback after all the troubles they've had at the position last year. Now, as a Seahawks fan, I hate the Rams. And they are on the top of my hate list when it comes to NFC West opponents. I won't go into that, though, but St. Louis, if you take a quarterback with your number one pick, I have another reason to hate you. I've heard scouting reports on Sam Bradford, Jimmy Clausen, and Tim Tebow. And I understand the Rams didn't have that much depth at the quarterback position at the end of the year. But taking a quarterback with the first overall pick doesn't make any sense to me. Why? Because you already have one. Okay, now granted, you do have the Rams. They do have the only two Division II quarterbacks on their roster. St. Louis, you got Keith Noll from West Texas A&M and Mike Riley from Central Washington University. Now last year you decided to go with Keith Noll instead of Mike Riley when Mark Bulger and Mike Bowler were hurt. Now even though I was upset when you went with Noll instead of Riley, I understand Riley wasn't around as long as Noll, and so you went with the player who had a little bit more experience. So I'll give you that. But St. Louis, now is the time when you should let Mike Riley have a chance in the NFL. Let me tell you why you should give Riley a chance, and for everybody else who doesn't know who he is. First of all, St. Louis, you're not going anywhere this year. I mean, you guys are rebuilding, and you don't really have that much. Although I do like your head coach. I was a fan of him when he was a defensive coordinator for the Giants. So I am a fan of your coach. Anyway, if you draft a quarterback at number one, you have to pay him an outrageous amount of money. You're not paying Riley that much. So why don't you give him a chance to show what he can do? There isn't any pressure on him to do well. He's not a hothead. I met the guy. He's down to earth, and he has great work ethic. Make him compete for the starting position, and you'll see him come alive. And he won't necessarily cost you that much money. Secondly, scouts were saying Mike Riley was a Division I quarterback playing at the Division II level. How did he end up at Central Washington University? He transferred from Washington State University. He said on my college radio show that I used to do that he wanted to play football and get some playing time, and he wasn't getting any at Washington State. And when he played for Central, he was arguably the greatest quarterback at this school. I mean, there is another quarterback from Central who has played and still in the NFL and has had a legitimate long career, and that's John Kitna. Now, I know John Kitna hasn't been as successful as other quarterbacks in the league. I understand he's jumped around, and used to be a quarterback for the Seahawks, then the Bengals, then the Lions, and now he's the backup for Tony Romo and the Dallas Cowboys. So I understand, he's bounced around. He's not a Hall of Famer. I understand that. But the fact that he's played in the league for 10 years is pretty good for a Division II quarterback. You got to hand it to him. In fact, Central wasn't a Division II school yet when Kitna played here. Central was an NAIA school, and Riley broke about 2/3 of his records here. In his senior year, Riley was a candidate for the Harlan Hill Trophy, which is the Division II's version of the Heisman Trophy. Now Riley is on your team, and now he's standing there on the sideline. St. Louis, please use Riley. I mean, give him a chance. I'm not saying he's going to be the next best thing. I'm saying you need to give him the opportunity. This guy has taken advantage of every opportunity he's gotten. Maybe if your line was better, you wouldn't be in the predicament at the quarterback position. You should do what the Seahawks should do and just draft linemen on both sides of the football. Sue would probably fit right in and produce a lot of positive results. So St. Louis, you don't need a quarterback. You already have one. Draft Sue and then focus on how you can improve your line and maybe get some wide receivers as well. Maybe if you improve your offensive line, you won't have to be one-dimensional with Steven Jackson at running back. Give Mike Riley the ball. Well, thanks very much for watching this, and expect more this week on Pug's Thoughts in the Doghouse. I'm going to be attempting to respond to comments from previous videos, so check those out as well. Until next time, this has been another installment of the Pug's Thoughts in the Doghouse.